This is Mr. Jennings coming from a mostly clean Jennings house. I wanted to do a quick video since I'm going to be out a few days about the project that we have here. So let me get my computer all set up. This is about as fancy as I've done since distance learning here. So project guidelines. Let's see. All right, what I'm looking for with this project. If you look at the screen, it says project goals to create a detailed project that explains the rise of either Mussolini in Italy or Hitler in Germany and compares and contrasts both of their rises to power. So that is a little bit true, but also what I'm going to be looking for is depending on what you pick, the requirements are a little bit different. So I've kind of grouped them maybe a little different than the paper you have for this project. So I wanted to go through the groupings. There's 4 different groupings. I wanted to show you a little demo as well of what I'm looking for. And then, yeah, that should hopefully get you ready to go with everything that we have. So let's get started. All right, first grouping is news broadcast or podcast. So just as a reminder, if you look up at the top here, when finished, record the audio on your phone and email it to mjennings@fillmoreusd.org. All right, so this isn't something that has to be presented live. It can, but you can also pre-record it and do it that way. So for the news broadcast, what I'm looking for is I would suggest covering one in detail of the rise to power of either Mussolini or Hitler. And then you also want to make sure you compare and contrast. So for the news broadcast, it's like an old-timey news broadcast from the 1930s. Definitely make a script or outline first what you're going to say before you start saying it. I will show you a couple of workarounds for that. But for the most part, that's what I'm going to be looking for. And if you're looking for a 5, a little extra credit, you can do things like add sound effects, right? You can find videos, maybe music to play in the background quietly. Maybe you can add like soldiers marching when you talk about them building up the military. Maybe you're playing a speech from Hitler or Mussolini as well in the background. This is kind of a side note, but there's these AI things that they've done now where they've taken Hitler's speeches and they've used Hitler's voice but translated it from German to English. I don't know if they've done that with Mussolini as much, but anyway, you could have that playing in the background or something like that. So just a suggestion, but try to be a little creative with it. That's what I'm looking for to get that extra grade boost. I will show you a little demo on how to use the iPhone app specifically to record. There's a couple of tips and tricks that you may or may not know. Um, so that's the news broadcast. The podcast, it's a little different. You're going to make a script or outline first before you speak, same kind of thing. But what I'm looking for with the podcast is kind of more in-depth discussion. Usually a podcast is 2 people. It doesn't have to be, but it usually is 2 or more. So you would make a strong case, like it says, for why people would give power to a man like Mussolini or Hitler. You can maybe compare and contrast a little more detail on that. That's going to be what we're looking for. So let me pull up the screen again here and show you my phone. Let me unlock it first. So you should have a recording app that looks something like this. See if this is working. All recordings, yep, there it is. All right, what you're gonna do when you hit record, if you actually slide up, you'll notice there's all these other features that you didn't have before. I'm trying to do this without looking at it. All right, you can scroll back on your little recording. So say you're talking and you mess up, right? You don't have to get rid of the whole thing. You can actually just go back to where you messed up. And then you'll notice the button now says replace. So you can replace the audio. Say you mess up the word steak. I don't know why I said steak. I must be hungry. But say you mess that up, right? You can just re-record it, steak, and then it should replace it. All right. So you can pause your recording. You can, yeah, go back and record something over. When you're all finished, what you want to do is hit the check mark up at the top. And then you also, when you're done, are going to hit the 3 dots that are up there. 3 dots. And you're going to share it. Share. And then you're going to send it via mail. And you're going to type in my email, which is up on the screen. mjennings@fillmoreusd.org. If you're on your student account, it should pop up. It's also got my address right there. That's nice. Send me a letter. Okay, and yeah, that's basically how you use the iPhone app. All right, I'm not familiar with the Android one, but the main thing about the iPhone app is that little feature where if you slide up as you're recording, you get all those extra abilities to record. All right, let's talk about the next one, which is documentary propaganda analysis presentation. This one you're going to do in PowerPoint. And it says when you're finished, send the PowerPoint either through email or with a link to the video to mjennings@fillmoreusd.org. So for the documentary, you could make it like a video, like a YouTube video. If you know how to do all that stuff, I'm not going to go into detail on that. It takes a little more setup, kind of like I'm doing here at home. But you can do it in PowerPoint. I'm using PowerPoint right now. And if you do it in PowerPoint, what you're going to want to do, whoa, what am I doing on the screen here? What you're going to want to do is put pictures that you're going to use as part of your documentary. The documentary is basically describing the rise of Mussolini, and you have visuals that assist you. So you want to also narrate it though. So you have to include your voice as you narrate. So I'm going to show you in the desktop version of PowerPoint, which is what I'm using here. Desktop means you can see the icon on the bottom. If you're trying to use it and you see like your web browser, that's not going to work. All right, so you need to make sure you have the desktop version of PowerPoint. You're going to go up to record, and then there's one that says audio. You can see me hovering over that there. I'll show you how to do that on the next slide. But for a 5, what I'm looking for is detailed, good primary sources. All right, eyewitness accounts, photos, videos, those kind of things is what I'll be looking for from the time period. All right, propaganda analysis presentation is going to be in PowerPoint too. You're going to add your voice too, but the difference is you're going over propaganda that was used back then. So this one you have to make sure you cover both Germany and Italy. It says both leaders there. All right, so you will find at least 3 examples from Italy and Mussolini's rise to power, 3 examples from Hitler's rise to power, and then you want to give, for a 5, a detailed analysis on the type of propaganda being used and similarities and differences, the way propaganda was used by those 2 people. All right, so take a look at the screen, and I found 2 pictures that I want to explain. You'll notice I've already done one here that shows this little speaker. So I'll show you how this works. This is an old one. So if you click play, which is what I'll do when I go to grade this, you should be able to hear the voice that's in there. So I'll just show you how to go through the process. It's pretty easy. Record, audio. It's going to pop this up here. You can put a name if you want. You don't have to, but demo 1. All right, and then when you're ready to record, you're just going to read whatever it is you want to say. Mussolini had a bit of a troubled past as a youth. He was visiting Switzerland. He actually moved there, and he was arrested for getting ready to incite a riot. So to get out of jail, Mussolini decided that he would enlist in the Italian military, which also was a way for him to not serve the rest of his sentence. And then he enlisted in World War I, and he served in Italy's version of the military. All right, if you're happy with yours, all right, this one has 2. But the one I want is, I believe, this one. So you can make this speaker thing a little bigger, right? I'm getting old with my eyes, so if you make it bigger for me, that's nice. And if you want to hear a preview, you can just push play. All right, good enough. So it works. You're going to make sure you do that on every slide. And you want to add your voice saying the things you need to say for the documentary or saying the things you need to say for the PowerPoint. If you want to get really fancy with your documentary, you can actually record yourself doing the whole presentation. Like it says here, it says record narrations, animations, transitions, ink, and laser pointer gestures. You don't have to worry about all that. You can just do it on each slide, and I'll listen to you tell the story and also look at the pictures while you're talking. All right, 3rd group, we want to talk about graphic novel, comic strip, political cartoon. These are a little different. You're not going to email these or anything. These are going to be hand drawn by you. You're going to use these, your hands, to draw them. So when you're finished, you're just going to turn it in. You can present these for extra credit if you're done early and talk about or just read your comic strip. Maybe I'll have you stand in front of the document cam if you want. And you can just go through and you can show your cartoon to everyone. So this one, you're going to use visuals and captions to describe the rise of either dictator. You can do both if you want, but you want to do details on one for sure. And for a 5, what I'm looking for again is going to be effort. You want to give good detail with your artwork and your captions, right? The difference between a graphic novel and comic strip is mostly just length, right? My boys are reading, I actually have one right here, Dogman. This is a graphic novel because it has graphics like this. Oh, just lost this place. Sorry, kid. It has graphics in the book, and then it also is going to have words, so it's a novel, right? Graphic novel, right? Comic strips are usually shorter, so there's not really a difference. It's just one tells like a whole story. So graphic novel about the rise of either Hitler or Mussolini. All right, political cartoon series is a little different. You're going to draw these as well, but you're going to draw 6 political cartoons, 3 for one dictator, 3 for the other. And the political cartoon is a cartoon that has, I guess you could say, like it has a visual, but then there's also a meaning behind the visual, right? Usually it's about politics. So, for example, we looked at this in one of my classes where there was a scroll that was all rolled up, and on the scroll it said Treaty of Versailles. And then coming out the other side of the scroll was Adolf Hitler, right? So it was trying to say that this Treaty of Versailles gave rise to the birth of Adolf Hitler. So what I'm looking for the 5 is the good explanation, good detail with artwork. So those I'm not going to show you an example of because you're going to be drawing them. And then the last thing is going to be kind of like the skits or the trials or the simulations. So for this one, you get to be a little creative and you're going to hold a trial about something to do with Hitler or Mussolini. It could be a trial about whether or not it was a crime for the things he did along the way. You could debate whether it was good or bad that these men took power the way they did. Was it something that was necessary or not necessary? You could put the German people or the Italian people on trial for giving their power to a man like this. Or you can do a skit where you reenact it and you're going to do it live, right? So this is going to be something you're either going to present live or it's going to be something that you could pre-record. So what I'm looking for 5 is you putting life into it, right? To get the 5 out of 5, 5 out of 4, I should say. You want to do some extra acting maybe or extra effort, extra energy. That's what I'm going to be looking for. And you want to make sure you include a good compare contrast with both dictators.